was a young man, first started fell walking when I was 16, and it was the high fells for me. I didn't want to bother with the low fells at all. Pike and Blisco was my first, but as I've got older, two things have happened. One is arthritis and dodgy knees, and the other is a little bit of wisdom, and that wisdom has told me that actually the lower fells of the Lake District are very often more scenic, more pleasant, easier to walk, and well worth taking the time and trouble to explore, just as much as the high fells. And this one is a classic example. It's a wonderful little fell. It's right on the edge of a Lake District. From the top we've got views of Scotland, or we would have if it wasn't a bank of cloud over the sea today. Stunning views of the Lake District, stunning views of the other fells, the high mountains. You can see 3,000 footers from here. Wonderful place to bring your children to enjoy a bit of running around on the fell tops, getting used to climbing. It's not too steep, there's no craggy bits, and yet the views are glorious. And actually, once you get up there, there's so many different things to see on the fell. You could spend a whole afternoon up here and just absorb you.
Right, well, now I've given it the big build-up, we'd better get down to the nitty-gritty. I'm parked on the road that leads to Withup Mill. That's Withup as opposed to Wythop, which is how I used to say it. So I'll apologise in advance if I slip back into my old bad habits occasionally. From the road, we'll head up the fell following a wide and easy to navigate track. At the top of the rise, we bear left to head up the west ridge to the summit. Once there, we take in the views before heading east to Lothwaite, which is just 30 feet lower but has wonderful views of Bassenthwaite and a very fine lunch seat. From there, we'll drop down the fell to Chapel Wood to visit one of the most unique churches in England, before heading back along the side of the fell via Kelsick and finishing at St Margaret's Church. This first section is a lovely climb along a nice wide track, flanked with gorse, and as you can see, there's barely a soul around. Nice view over to the coast on our right. It's a gentle fell, with no hidden problems, perfect for children, folk of a certain age, and everyone who just wants to take their time and enjoy the scenery.
Right, that's the first bit of the climb over. In fact, if we stick with this wall that's on my right and carry on over, we'll actually drop down the fell and go around the other side of the fell. And we can do a circuit of the entire fell without going to the top, just by sticking on this path, which is rather nice. We're not doing that, we're going to go to the top. And what I'm going to do is just turn left up this little track here and just follow it up. It's not actually that far, and it's not too steep, although there's one or two little steep edges. It's quite windy today, so we'll see how we get on with that.
Right, I do have to admit that from now on it gets a bit steeper. It's a steady climb, one or two steeper bits. Unfortunately today, I'm getting a bit hampered by the strong wind. But I certainly won't get lost in the crowd.
This is the top. It's a tad windy, but the best views are from over there, and that's where we're headed.
It's too windy to hang around on the top today, so I've dug into my archive for some pictures to show you. That's Skiddaw on the left, Ullock Pike longside edge in the middle, and Dodd on the right. That's looking east towards the Helvellyn range, but notice you can't see Bassenthwaite Lake from here. And the main body of fells to the southeast are blocked out by Lord's Seat. It's a cracking view though. 'Tis amazing. I've come off the summit, and although it's still a bit breezy, it's nothing like as bad. Don't worry, I'll get the hang of it in a minute. Between the two tops it's about a 20-minute stroll, no rock steps or boggy bits, and the reward for our endeavours is a nicely positioned seat just below the summit. The previous occupant has forgotten their stick. And now for one of my lunches with a view. Chicken salad sandwiches, and an accompanying donut. And now I shall walk that lot off by exploring the Withup Valley.
You will notice that this is one of the narrowest paths in the Lake District. And we've got nice bushes, gorse bushes either side. I have noticed actually down here there are cycle tracks, so somebody cycled down this path, which I think is quite brave really, because there are parts where it's that wide, and then so it's a single file track straight down the fell to the bottom, but it actually is very pleasant, and the wind's dropped out, thank goodness. Okay, that's the bottom. We've got a choice. And either turn left and go round, we go through the forest, get a nice view of Bassenthwaite that way, so it's pretty good. Or I can turn right and go to the old church. And that rather intrigues me, so that's what we're going to do. And the real beauty of this path is it's downhill all the way. Nice gentle slope. We've got a beautiful valley to my left. Got some spring flowers growing here. The wind's dropped out because we're sheltered. It's lovely.
At the other end of the woodland, we pass what appears to be a sheepfold, except that stone shows that all is not as it seems.
In the 15th century, if you lived in these parts, this is where you would have come to church. This tiny little church. It's out on the side of the fell. It's called Wainwright Old Church now. And there's a plaque there that signifies its previous use. Nice little church, probably hold what, 30, 40 people? It lasted as a place of worship until 1866, when the new church was built on the other side of the fell, the much larger St Margaret's Church near Wainwright. And then, but it's still here. It's lovely.
Now the thing is, this might look like a ruin, but in actual fact, services are still held here occasionally, roughly once a year. Right, onwards and upwards. Notice that we're not heading back over the top of the fell, although you could if you wanted. This path runs around the outside of the fell, and it has these wonderful views across the valley and on towards the coast. It's a very pleasant amble in beautiful sunshine, and we're nicely out of the wind here. At the top of the slope we passed by the point where we turned left a couple of hours ago. We've completed a circuit, but there's one more place I'd like to visit before heading back home. This is St Margaret's Church, and it served the people who live in these parts for the last 152 years.
Was a bit low, that. A lovely way to end what has been a beautiful afternoon. It's spoiled only by the wind, actually. It's very strong on the top, but I have to say that that's quite rare. Most of the times I've been here, it's never been windy, it's been beautiful. And then on the weekends, particularly if I've come over on a weekend, it's been a lovely place to come. I hope you've enjoyed that. Nice little trip around one of the lower fells. Just have a look and see what there is, not only on the top of the fell and the views from the fell, but also little curious things around the outside. The little old church at Withup. There, you see, I said it right this time. And this beautiful church, and lovely graveyard with its spring flowers waving gently. Makes me think of Wordsworth, actually. Beautiful, beautiful. And then I should just have another 5 minutes here and then make my way heavy-hearted back home. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, don't forget to subscribe. There's more coming, and hopefully we'll get a bit more of this decent weather instead of the winter we've had, and we'll be able to bring you lots more stunning scenery. But until now, until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.